And this week we are talking about influencer and influencer marketing and influencers and wherever this conversation may go. We had some interesting, we're going in several different directions as far as on the Twitter chat or X chat. I'll get that yet. In 10 years, I'll figure out how to say X chat instead of Twitter chat. Welcome, Tom. Welcome, Gail. Glad to have you here.
Greetings.
What was that? Your first, I have to say tweet. It's hard to say. Your first post. Your first post. What? Your first blog post. Your first tweet, Gail. What was it? Um, Now I'm trying to remember. I have to go look it up. You said something. Was it perception of
Oh,
influence?
no, yeah. I said the illusion of influence can be useful for marketing.
I would love to hear more. That was a fascinating response.
Well, you shouldn't let it go to your head, right? I used to say
Mhm.
the illusion of fame is useful for marketing. So when I hit 100,000 followers on Twitter, right? Don't let it go to your head because it really doesn't mean that much. I mean, back in the day, sadly, when I had 10,000 followers and I posted a link, I would get 30 or 40 people immediately on my website. And then by
Mhm.
the time I hit 100,000 followers, if I posted a link, I might get one. And so it was actually better in the early days when there were less people, maybe. I don't know what has changed so dramatically, but over the years, you get less things going on there.
Maybe the value of a tweet. And I'm not picking on anyone on Twitter, but this whole thing with Twitter versus X versus who owns it and all that. Um,
Oh, this was long before all that
right,
happened,
right,
right?
right,
I'm talking about in
right.
the early days, right?
Like
The very early
2010,
days that
2009.
links actually got clicks, and then later, right, long before Elon bought it and all that
Hmm.
happened,
Right.
there just wasn't that much. People didn't leave, right? They tended to stay there and hang out. I think it's that the people on Twitter changed. So
Right.
at the beginning, it was early adopters who like long form content and research and were into what you were posting. And then over time, it became the people that have a smartphone and just like to scroll through pretty pictures, right?
That's
They
like
are
with
Cats.
TikTok.
way less
Cats.
likely to click on you on anything. Cats, yeah.
Oh,
Cats want. Cats has cheeseburgers.
Yes, exactly. So the early adopters are significantly different than the people who come later.
that makes sense. I had a thought there, but I think I lost the thought. It's Tom.
Well, no, I agree with what she's saying there. People were always when I first signed up on Twitter because that's what it was. When was that? My
2000
first account,
something.
I grew to 12,000 people, and that was during the when was the last election? 16?
2016. Yeah.
16, yeah, I was in 16. So I was on Twitter before that. But people were saying, well, you got to find your audience. Go where your audience is. That's where you market. You find your audience. And I was on Twitter for years. And I said, my audience is not here. Oh, yeah, they are. Yeah, they are. You just got to find them. And I'm like, no, my industry is made up of dinosaurs. And I won an award. You're going to laugh about this, Deborah. I won an award for getting my professional association signed up on Facebook. And when they gave me the award, I was like, that's for me? And they're like, yeah,
On Facebook.
you did so much on social media and you got our Facebook account started. And I said,
On Facebook.
no, the truth is I opened a MySpace account for you. I've never been on Facebook,
That's
but
what
I
I
have an
say. You can't
award.
stand Facebook.
I have an award hanging on my wall for doing that for the association. But the point was that they thought that was such a wonderful thing, and just because they're dinosaurs, and so was I.
Oh my
And
goodness.
so it's been difficult to find my audience on those kind of places. Now, LinkedIn is a little better for the simple reason that it is designed more around business. If that same Japanese girl and her 23 clone sisters doesn't start leaving me alone, I'm going to do something else there. I got a message from one of them today. Said, "Oh, I was really impressed by your profile, and I'm so glad to see that you're Asian too."
What?
I'm like,
What?
yeah, what are you talking about? And I went back and even looked at my profile. I go, what did I say that was Asian in here? I
You're
like
Scottish.
Moo Gai Pan or something. I don't know.
Aren't you?
Yes, Scottish and Irish.
It's a bot thing.
And I was like, delete, just go away. So the point is about being an influencer. You're an influencer to your audience. And my point, what I was trying to respond to Gail's was, and that audience doesn't stay static. It continues to move.
Mm-hmm.
And so the one you're chasing or the platform you're using or the age group you're, whatever, it's a constant state of flux. And so who you influence is a dynamic that melds all of that together. And some of the people somehow, somewhere get influenced. And if you persuaded them to a good objective, then great. Everything's wonderful.
Well, I want to say something though. Again, back in the day, Eileen, you guys know Eileen,
Mm-hmm.
limited the number of people that followed or that were following her to around, I think it was around 3,000 at the beginning. It grew a little bit after that, but at one time it was 3,000.
I do remember
But
that.
what happens is when you do that, you have a much more interaction with each person and you become more influential to those 3,000 people than you are if you have 100,000 people, right? Because you dilute how much people are seeing, right? So
Right.
we know one influencer who only tweets once a day at most. And so the platforms that measure influence consider him more influential because his one tweet gets pinned there, right? And it gets way more engagement than like if you use Twitter for Twitter chats and you have a lot of tweets, right? Each tweet gets less, it gets diluted. And so influencers actually typically limit how often they share to stay influential. But the influencer thing kind of ended up being an Instagram thing, right? The big businesses were paying Instagram influencers a whole lot of money, and you don't really see that anywhere else. At least I haven't. I don't know anyone that's making a lot of money being an influencer except on Instagram.
I haven't seen a lot since like 2015, 2016. I mean, little pockets here and there, depending on what it is. Or what is it? The program Influencer or something? You can make, $50 doing a, what do you call those videos? The unboxing videos. I used to do some of those and make a few bucks here and there, but yeah, I wasn't really into the.
Is that like building?
Influencer.
Is that like building your clout score?
A clout score was more who engaged with you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if people actually interacted with you, you weren't just tweeting stuff and never talking to anybody. Your clout score went up because you actually engaged with people, like you did Twitter chats, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when people asked questions, you answered them, and you had actual discussions. Then you would have a higher clout score, and there was actually two parts to the score, and I don't remember the details.
Do you remember a chat called Spoof Chat? Spoof Chat was run by Chris Barrows. Chris Barrows and Joel Retner.
I don't
You remember those guys at all? Anyway,
No.
They started it because its name, Spoof Chat, was exactly what they intended. They were spoofing other chats as just having fun. And one night they got to talking about clout scores. And it was so weird because I was like, I don't know what you guys are even talking about. Tell me what this is. And I forget whether it was Joel or Chris. They come back on and they go, oh my God, have you seen your score? I'm like, I don't even know what it is. How would I see it? Your score's phenomenal. And I'm like, okay, how do I make money with it? That's my next question. And we never did. But yeah, apparently I had a good clout score and didn't even know why or where it came from or anything.
Well, because you were talking to people, not just sharing stuff.
But you see, that was the point. I wasn't chasing a clout score. The people chasing a clout score couldn't do it. I didn't know what I was doing.
Well, the clout score, it's not like you chase it. It's like I used to track it every day to see where it was at. But as Gail said, it's where you have engagement. So I would just simply watch it. It's like because there are different components. It's like where am I at as far as Facebook, where am I at here, and so forth. And I would go out and I would interact with people. And then I would see what my clout score is the next
it was
day.
an interaction score instead of a broadcast score.
But I can see how we could interpret that as an influence score, because that's certainly a piece of who are you influencing. Well, people aren't going to respond to you if they don't think you have something of value to offer. So you are influencing them or engaging with them. And yes, it helps them as well. But I can see how those relate. Right.
But there's influence that's monetizable and there's influence that kind of isn't. All right. So the tighter your niche, the better you can monetize, the more likely your site will make money, the more likely you'll be influential in getting people to buy. Like if you have a very specific thing, you're into fast fashion or something, right? Especially a particular brand. You get known for that and you're very influential with the people who think that having the latest and greatest from that brand is important to them, right? That's very monetizable. Whereas small business marketing is really not very easily monetized. It's not really easy to have your email marketing work because it's too broad, right? For everything you can publish, there's the people you're publishing to aren't interested in everything about small business marketing, only the pieces that apply to them.
So if I focused on Twinkies, that would be a nice little niche to have.
Yeah, you
and who knows? Maybe they'd send me a box of Twinkies, right?
Right. I mean, basically, though, we've known this, and a lot of people recognized this a long time ago. There were a lot more sites like mine that were broadly small business marketing strategy, right? That over time became something else. Like, who was it that was Traffic Cafe? There was somebody that focused on getting more traffic. Some people focused on email marketing. Some people focused on customer service, right? So they recognized that all things marketing was way too broad and they needed to be something specific, either a specific piece of marketing, video marketing, email marketing, right? Something specific.
Like a niche down.
Or niche specific, right? Yep. Auto dealership marketing, right? Golf
real estate marketing
stuff marketing, real estate marketing. You have to niche down to be monetizable and influential. The more big picture person you are, the less monetizable you are because you won't convert, right? You got a big audience, but the odds that big audience is going to convert highly is poor.
But I want to push back on that just a little bit because I want to think this through a little bit on my own. I understand what you're saying, and I've always been told that. And people have told me to niche down, niche down, niche down, niche down. Until finally somebody said to me, look, you can sell to whoever you choose to. You can market to one. And that's where you need to have your focus. I was like, okay, suddenly it makes sense to me. Niche down, target your market. But if somebody else pops out of the woodwork, fine, you can buy from me too. So I'm heading down this path. I come onto the social media platforms and I say, I do government contracting. And you can just watch everybody in the room just kind of go. It didn't mean anything to them. But that's a really small niche.
It's a very small niche. But you're still better off targeting your specific niche than a big, broad thing where 99% of people go, huh? It's not relevant to them. They're not going to pay attention. It's hard to build a list. It's hard to monetize a list. And that's what people need to understand. The influencers that make a lot of money are usually e-commerce related and on Instagram, right?
Yeah, they've got a broad market no matter how much they niche down. And I get that. Well,
and they don't even have to niche down. It's like it's a personality cult, right? Mm-hmm. So there's this person. She's the one other people want to be like. So she can promote whatever, right? to her followers who are just basically wanting to be clones of her, right?
Exactly. That's the other kind of influencer where it's like,
Yeah,
oh
and
yes, I
those
want to be
kind of
here.
influencers make a lot of money because a brand can come to them and say, you know, we want you to promote our shirt, purse, shoes, whatever, right?
Hair color, or
Yeah,
yeah.
makeup, whatever
So
it
I
is.
need to
They
change
can
my
do
message.
lots of stuff.
My message needs to be, you too could be a boring lawyer that talks about contracts. Join my cult. I had to give that some more
Right.
thought.
But see, that's why we know that influencers, it's like, why do people know who the Kardashians are? They're famous for being famous. There's a whole lot of people that are famous for being famous. I don't get it. I have
Sex
no
tapes.
interest in it. Oh, is that it? Well, that could be. I didn't know about that part. But they're those kind of people. It's like being a popular kid in school. It's like the cliques people had in high school, right? If you're the clique leader person, you can push lots of stuff on your blind followers, right? And that's basically how that works. It's the same reason why we use celebrities to sell stuff in commercials long before there was an internet, right? If some famous celebrity says you should buy it, then a lot of people who like that person in whatever they were famous for are likelier to buy it.
It's like the king and queen at the prom or something. A friend of mine,
Yeah.
she was highly intelligent, nice gal, but she was not the most popular gal in high school. But I mean, really nice gal. But she was dating the football quarterback, and he was the most popular guy in school. They were
Right.
going together for like 3 years or whatever. So when they were at the prom, they all voted for him as the prom king. Well, you voted for her because she was his girlfriend. So
Right.
she became the most popular because of the influence.
Vicarious celebrity.
But do you remember the controversy that Facebook created? Because who is most influential to most people?
I have no idea. No.
They're friends and family. It's not some celebrity, right? It's the friends and family. And so
Not in my
Facebook created a way where they could like make it look like your friends and family were recommending stuff.
Oh,
And a lot of people took offense to that and they got sued, and that didn't last very long. But, you know, if you want to talk about influencer marketing, the most influential person is someone you admire and that you know personally.
well, that'd be a way to not buy something if it looked like one of my family members were using it. I'd be like, oh, they're not using that. No, I shouldn't say that. I gotta take that out of the video. No. But I see what you're saying, Gail.
Now, I raised something in the chat, and if we got a couple minutes to wrap up on it, you kept using the word influencer, and I was consistently referring to people who can persuade, because influence, I think, is one dimension of this. But if you are an active influencer, what you're really trying to do is to persuade people. And whether it's to a political opinion or a particular product or a vacation spot, or you're saying, hey, wouldn't you like to go there? Wouldn't you like to be here? Wouldn't you like to see these beaches? And the whole marketing message to me has become that message of persuasion, saying, okay, here's where you are, but I can take you here. And so I'm going to persuade you to buy my product or whatever, drink my beer, drive my truck, whatever. To get there. Do you either of you see a difference or a major difference between persuader and influencer, or do you think I'm thinking about it wrong?
Yes, it can be. All right. So let's say if you're just famous for being famous, you can be influential without being too persuasive, right? Like really super famous people with big followings, they show up wearing some new fashion designer and all their minions go, oh, I got to have that. They didn't even say anything. They may not even mention what it was. All those followers go, oh, I got to have that because she's wearing it, right?
Princess
That's an
Diana
influencer.
and all
But
of
a
her wardrobe.
persuader, has to actually actively persuade, right? They have to actually try to make a case for why you would want to do it, right? So salespeople are persuaders, right? You don't even know you want the thing, but they're going to try to talk you into it. And so I do see a difference. Some influencers are persuasive, like they point out all the pros and minimize the cons and all that stuff. But pure influence, if you're just famous for being famous, they don't have to be persuasive. They just have to appear, and
And I was
they're
thinking that in that term, as far as influencer, I was thinking more so the way Gail described it, just because that we've been hanging out with some of the same people in those groups.
well. At one time, influencers were considered great. Now they're trying to get rid of the term and use something else, right? So trends come and go, but the bottom line is still they will pay you if the people who you can influence is a significant number and they are likely to actually do something based on your recommendation, then you're still an influencer. They can call it something else if they want to. You can be a brand ambassador,
Mm-hmm.
right? You need something else. But the people that have the most influence are the people that don't lie to their followers, right? The people that tell the truth, right, are more influential among thinking people. And granted, there's a big audience that's not thinking people, but among thinking people, you will blow your influence if you lie to them, right? If you're, what do we call that? When you're just pushing some product. If you're pushing something and it turns out to be a dud, it will affect your reputation. So it's not
Yes,
a good idea to do that.
it's true. Does that answer the question, Tom?
I don't know. You have anything else to add?
Yeah, we have anti-influencers now. Think Bud Light and the great loss of business. That's an anti-influencer. They intended that to be an influencer, but that was an anti-influencer.
Yeah, but that person has not suffered really.
Well, no, the person didn't, but the brand and the people that work for the brand certainly did.
Yeah.
Right? That person didn't. And honestly, I mean, some people might think that person is confused. Personally, I think that person is milking this for all the money they can make. Right? Because
Remember
they
Tiny
think
Tim?
what they think every other day, right?
Do you remember the singer Tiny Tim?
Yeah, I do.
Tiptoe through the tulips. But yeah, and everybody was like, "Is he for real, or is this just a persona?" And then what was the guy that did those the Borat movies? He's not really like that, but it's a persona. The Smothers Brothers, they got on stage, they had these personas. They weren't like that in real life at all. And so I have no problem with personas. It's when you seem to have moved into an alternate reality and everybody has to join you in this party. And it's like, nah, I don't think that's how it works. I'm
That's
not persuaded.
a Marxist agenda, which caused a huge backlash. Right. So that was not overly wise, but they're still doubling down. A lot of brands are still doubling down on the lack of reality or their alternate reality. Yeah, so influencers have come a long way. It's very interesting.
Do you know what the new term is? I know you mentioned brand ambassador.
I can't think. Brand ambassador has actually been around a long time,
Mhm.
but people are trying to get away from influencer. Like it became a negative thing, so they're trying
Right.
to pretend it doesn't exist and call it
Well,
something else. And I don't remember what they're calling it now.
when I first joined Twitter, I had the name GovCon Guru because I did government contracting, and a guru is someone who takes you from dark to light. And it had always been a good term. And I wasn't on the platform a week until somebody said, in fact, it was very pejorative, and it was, okay, boomer, you're the only one still saying guru. And I was like, what did I do wrong? But I learned, that yes, my audience wasn't there, but the audience that was there, they didn't view that favorably at all. And I'm thinking, well, that's a sure shift in the generations.
Yeah, the thing is the polarity now is insane, right? There are so many topics where they're so far apart that it would be near impossible to bridge the gap, right? And so there are just some topics that that there is no common ground for. And if you're in business, you try to avoid those, generally speaking, unless you really want to only have one part of that market, right? You have to pick your battles and decide what's important to you.
And then the
Makes
ones that
sense.
become the butt of jokes. And like the latest Boeing plane arrived in Seattle at 6:32, 6:33, 6:34.
Yeah, they are definitely on a downhill slide, boy. They need to get a grip. But we probably know what caused that. It was their focus on their leaders focus on making more money and cutting corners. Is probably what caused that. It could be other things, you know, you could blame it on DEI, you could blame it on hiring the wrong people, you could blame it on a health issue with people's brains not working so well anymore.
Well, Deborah, you're letting us run late tonight, and I'm not quite sure why. But since you are, I'm going to go ahead and add that when I was with the government, we did a lot of studies and exercise. We actually did drills based on disasters. And one of the ones that we did a drill for before it ever happened was a truckload of explosives parked in front of a federal office building. And this was long before anything happened in Oklahoma, which makes you wonder, okay, what did they know and why were they having us drill for this at the time? But you look at the Challenger disaster, and I knew those guys. I'd worked with them before launch. The Columbia disaster, the Bhopal disaster. And Gail, you're right. It is never one thing. It is a whole string of events that led up to a disaster, any one of which, having been done differently, disaster never would have occurred. But people did see it at the time.
And I hate to say this, but we did actually hit. I was watching it, and we actually did hit that.
Gail, did you know we had rap music now?
No, I'm surprised.
And I was wondering if you would interpret that as RAP or WRAP.
Well,
Thanks
that's an idea.
everyone for tuning in, and we will see you same time, same place next week at Social Cafe Interactive Live. Thanks all.
Bye, everyone.